All right, welcome to this explainer. I'm so glad you're joining us today because we are going to dive into a totally fascinating shift in how we actually live our lives. You know that one person who literally never posts anything? Maybe it's your best friend or, hey, maybe it's you. While everyone else is scrambling to document their vacation from 5 different angles, they're just chilling, enjoying the trip. And while society kind of makes us feel like they're missing out, recent psychological research suggests there's a massive chance they've actually figured out something the rest of us haven't. So today, we're unpacking the hidden power of not posting.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think about this for a second. When was the last time you actually posted on social media? Now compare that to the last time you thought about posting but didn't. We all know the exact feeling. You took the perfect photo, you opened up the app, and then you just stopped. That gap, that tiny micro moment of hesitation right before hitting share, actually tells us everything we need to know about modern psychology. Because somewhere between opening your camera and putting it out there for the world, your brain totally kicks into overdrive.
So to understand exactly why that happens, let's look at Section 1, the hesitation to post.
Way before smartphones were even a thing, sociologist Erving Goffman noted that we all wear different masks to control how people see us. It's totally normal. But social media? It basically took those masks and put them on a permanent stage with a billion-person audience. And because of that audience, your brain starts doing incredibly fast mental math. Are people going to like this? Does this make me look good enough? Wait, is my life actually interesting enough? Suddenly, you're feeling this intense, heavy pressure, seeking validation from hundreds of distant followers, some of whom you literally haven't spoken to in years.
And that overwhelming pressure, it brings us right to Section 2, the psychology of lurkers.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer volume of people doing this. Studies show that roughly 35% of social media users are what researchers call lurkers. Now, I know that word sounds a little bit creepy, kind of like someone just hiding out in the digital shadows. But really, these are simply people who scroll but never share. They skip the performance completely. And hey, if you're part of that 35%, this totally validates you. You're just refusing the performance entirely.
This hesitation builds into what researchers call the anxiety loop. There's this completely fascinating study published in Frontiers in Psychology that found the exact reason why people choose the audience over the stage. It basically breaks down into 3 steps. When you mix the intense pressure to post with a deep, deep fear of being judged, something inside us kind of just breaks. It leads straight to profound exhaustion and anxiety. The study revealed that constantly comparing your boring Tuesday afternoon reality to everyone else's perfectly curated highlight reel, it acts like literal poison to the brain. So these people aren't weird at all. Their brains are literally just trying to protect them.
Which shifts us nicely into Section 3, validation versus true control.
So there's this concept called self-determination theory. It basically states that humans do their absolute best when they feel totally in control of their own choices, completely free from outside pressure. Now think about social media for just a second. It's pretty much the exact opposite of this theory, right? It's a massive validation machine where your self-worth is literally quantified by likes, views, and reactions. Non-posters are protecting their autonomy. They are flat out refusing to hand their self-esteem over to some random algorithm.
And this quote right here, it hits the nail on the head. My confidence doesn't need to come from strangers on the internet. Research consistently points out that highly secure individuals fiercely value their boundaries. They just do not feel the need to broadcast their lives, and their self-esteem is absolutely not tied to the comments section. They prefer to, actually live their lives instead of just filming them.
But what about when these secure non-posters still use the apps just to scroll? Let's jump into Section 4, the attention loophole. Okay, here is what's incredibly intriguing and frankly kind of scary. Psychologists have found that your brain still falls for the fake highlight reel. Even when you consciously know social media is completely fake, just scrolling automatically makes you compare yourself. You see a spotless new house or a perfectly lit engagement ring. Even if you know for a fact it took them 20 takes to get that perfect photo, your subconscious simply doesn't care. It looks at it and screams, "They have more than me." Actually, scratch that. It's more like a quiet, nagging whisper that everyone is doing better than you. The damage is already done. People who step back from posting often recognize this trap and just refuse to play.
Which brings us to a fascinating behavioral loophole, the platform paradox. Have you ever noticed how many people will happily binge watch a 3-hour video essay on YouTube completely guilt-free, but won't even touch Instagram or TikTok? Why is that? Well, YouTube offers passive consumption and learning without demanding a performance from you. Literally no one is tracking if you posted a life update in 3 months. Instagram and TikTok, on the other hand, demand active performance, quantify your self-worth, and create social anxiety. Non-posters have essentially found the attention loophole. They get the whole shebang, all the entertainment, with absolutely none of the anxiety.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 5, the power of privacy.
And this brilliantly illustrates the reality of their social lives. 5 real friends are absolutely greater than 1,000 random likes. People who avoid social media might technically have fewer friends on paper, but the research absolutely backs this up. Cultivating a few deep, quality friendships consistently predicts true happiness far better than a massive quantity of shallow connections. 10 real, genuine conversations will always beat 1,000 passive reactions, for sure.
So the absolutely crucial point here is how psychologists identify 2 totally different types of self-awareness. Public self-consciousness is constantly worrying, how will this look? It's entirely external. Private self-consciousness is tuning inward to ask, how does this feel? That's internal. Non-posters lean heavily into private self-consciousness. They aren't checked out at all, not by a long shot. They're actually paying much closer attention to their own thoughts, feelings, and core values. They stay incredibly grounded in reality.
We can honestly call this their quiet superpower. Because they aren't expending all this exhausting energy constantly trying to manage a public image, they cultivate incredibly high emotional intelligence. They actually maintain the mental space for genuine self-reflection. Plus, they are highly observant of reality and other people. They easily notice when a carefully constructed story seems a tiny bit off. Ultimately, they build an identity that simply doesn't require an audience to exist. It's a real game changer.
And we have to remember this harsh truth. Trying to perform an experience for the internet genuinely ruins it. Just think about how certain deeply human experiences actually get worse when you try to optimize them for an audience. That stunning sunset, it is genuinely more beautiful when you aren't fighting with your phone's camera settings. A profound conversation with a friend is far more meaningful when you aren't in the back of your head mentally drafting a clever caption for it.
Which leads us to the grand paradox of this whole system. Social media promised us connection and community, right? But instead, it delivered a massive performance economy, where being real is incredibly rare. The irony here is that the people who opt out are actually rejecting this fake performance economy, so they can find the true real-time connection that social media originally promised in the first place. They're choosing to connect on their own terms, without putting on a show.
I want to end this explainer with a powerful, provocative thought for you to chew on. Nobody on their deathbed ever wishes they had posted more. Plenty wish they had lived more. What if the people who don't use social media aren't the ones missing out? What if they're actually the ones who figured it out first? Choosing privacy over posts, choosing depth over followers, and choosing to be completely present over performing isn't antisocial at all. It might honestly be the ultimate form of self-respect. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helps you see the quiet ones and maybe even your own scrolling habits in a completely new light. Catch you next time.